It's time for Tech Topic in 10. So this is a segment where Charlene will explain a technical topic in 10 minutes or under, but then we'll be speaking about the coding Black females community.
So think of it as a lightning talk, Charlene, and this is an opportunity for you to demystify an area of tech that other people might not know about. And I think today you're going to give it a go explaining the first product that Coding Black Females made to...
Right, okay. So, Tech Topic in 10, Coding Black Females. Totally do that. So, what I'm going to kind of talk about is a bit about the first product that we made at Coding Black Females, but then also how we kind of went from a space that we were a tech community moving into this like actual company that has people working for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, this is awful because I don't know that normal people build businesses in this way, but that's fine. So I would say that what we had initially was this community, right? We had no face, no nothing. There was nothing that anybody could see that was part of Coding Black Females online except for the meetup group.
Mm-hmm.
So what I essentially did was at that point, we had a conference that was happening on Afro Tech Fest. I don't know if you would have gone to that. Yeah. So I went to Afro Tech Fest and I was like, oh my God, I've got to do a lightning talk about Coding Black Females. But then where are they all going to go once they have a look at this thing? So I created a website the night before.
As you do. As you do.
I created a website the night before because I was like, we need somewhere for them to go. So I would say essentially this was the first product, right? It was a website, great, whatever. Like it was a way for people to find out more about the community. But what that then meant was we had essentially companies could land on a website and they would ask me questions like, oh, do you know how I could list a job with you? I want to tell people about these jobs that we have. And I was like, yeah, of course. So whenever they'd give me a job, I'm like, yeah, the way it works, you just send me the details for the job and then it will be available on the website overnight. So there's some of the details and I would literally like code a page in the night because I was like, I need to have a page ready on the website that these companies are telling me that they want to pay to host with us. So what I was then like, actually, I can't just build a page whenever somebody, like it's worth it, like they would pay £100, I would build a page, then there'll be a page on the website, fine. But I needed to be more sustainable. Mm-hmm. So what I then did was the actual product that we then built was the job board, which is something that's kind of integrated with the website. And at that point, I had no idea what to really use. Like I'd only ever built systems that were really internally facing, that sort of thing in the past. And I wanted to have a product that people could log into, interact with, and then upload jobs and do that sort of thing. So created this job board using WordPress, something I've never done before. And WordPress is interesting because I don't really believe in no code or low code. It's not a thing that I do, but had to learn this new platform essentially that I hadn't done before. So built the Coding Black Females job board probably in a weekend, I think, because I was like, okay, you got to dedicate some time, put a weekend aside. You can actually just learn how to do it and then release it on the Monday. It's fine. So,
and this is why you're working a full-time role?
Yeah, so I was working full-time, but it was only a weekend.
Like, yeah, only a weekend, no big deal. Yeah.
No, that's fine. So I built the job board in one weekend using WordPress, and I was like, okay, they need to be able to bring in payments. It needs to be able to have people manage their own so that I don't have to do anything at all. And it needs to be self-sustainable and self-managed because that way I'll be able to sort of set back.
Yeah.
And I also wanted the brand to be lined up with the CBF site as well that we already had, because otherwise it would be like, why is this random site there and all these differences? So I actually did loads of research. I looked at loads of different job boards. I looked at the ways people advertise roles and the sort of information that we need to capture. And then, build that using WordPress. And what that meant was we then had a way for me to do nothing, but the company to generate income. Even though it was a small amount of income, we could generate income at that point. And companies could then see, okay, like if I want to tap into that community, I don't even need to contact anybody. I can just log in and do what I want, which I guess was one of the turning points that we had, which was a way for us to generate income, interact with organizations, for the companies and for the community to gain benefit from CBF, which was really, I think, one of the turning points for us to be able to I'm not going to say this is a way that we were able to go from being a community to a company, or a community to having full-time employees, but it's a way, because I can then, at that point, we could say, okay, we've got a single stream of income coming in from one location. I always wanted to have a company that had multiple income streams. And one of the important things is that if you've got an income stream, I remember watching a documentary or something about, I don't know, Louis Vuitton or one of those companies, and they always have multiple products. They have something that the people can buy en masse, so something that's relatively low priced. You've got something that's at a different price point, so then you get a different set of companies in. Then you have something at a much bigger price point, so that you can get, you get fewer orders of that really big thing, but they can be a real turning point. So I was like, okay, cool, we've got something that's going to get us a bit of churn, get us some income, and if we want to push it, we can do, and then that can actually pay one or two people's salaries. And then it was like, okay, what else can we do in terms of enabling more people to get involved in what we're doing at CBF, from a working perspective? Because there was the job board, but there was also running this community, there was running the events, there was growing the community, all these things, learning what marketing and branding was, which was all stuff that I didn't know about. So I had a very limited amount of time to be able to do all of that, and I wanted to pull other people in that could support with the development of that as well. So there was that side. There was also working alongside a lot of the companies who were able to really, I didn't actually realize that there was budget available within companies to support companies like ours to do the work that we do. I didn't know that was a thing until I went to a conference and people were like, of course we pay for that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. Hey, great. I've got to make that possible. So then it was like, okay, let's figure out what it means to make that possible. What does a company want? And what's beneficial to the community as well, right? So you've got always got to think on both sides. It's the market is the community, and then the companies are the people that are funding us to be able to support the community. So we've got to make sure that we can always serve both audiences at all times. So I would, again, take a lot of advice from a lot of people, have a lot of conversations when I was learning about how the way that companies will choose to brand businesses and the way that they'll choose to support organizations as well. So then it was like, okay, we need to make sure that we have a way of showcasing that they are working alongside our brand, which is where the company profile pages, that's why they exist. Because we want to be able to say, these are companies that we're working with, these are people that are interacting with us, but also that's something that essentially companies will pay for, is a way to showcase that they're working alongside your brand to do something good in society. Like, that's so positive. So essentially anything that a company wants, and also anything that the community wants, would generally just be built overnight or over a weekend, so that we can enable it. So I always say yes. If someone says that something exists, the answer is yes, and then we make it happen. And
Agile, true agile.
That's true agile.
A lot of people that were in the CBF volunteer community as well, they'd be like, okay, I get it, it's the CBF way, Charlene. Fine, we'll just make it happen. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's make it happen. So it's like very reactive, not in a bad way, like reactive in a way that is actually a positive. So the great thing about the work that we do is anything that we do is benefiting Black women in the tech industry. So it's never a downside. If a company is like, we want to do this, and I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's genuine and honest, then we ain't doing it. But if it's being done from the right place and for the right reasons, and we can build it, then yeah, we'll get it done in a relatively agile way.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And as well, I think the fact that you're doing it on reaction means that you know that there's an instant demand for it, because you're doing it in response to a request for that thing. There's so many cool things that you guys have built, including the LMS and how you manage all your content for your courses and stuff that you do.
I mean, that's fantastic. So that's one of the great things about being able to grow the team, right? Is that then it didn't have to be me building stuff anymore. It could actually be a team of people. So we started delivering our coding bootcamp in 2020, and which was amazing. Don't know how we did it. Still don't know how we did it, because like everybody who was involved in that was working a full-time job. Everybody was in a full-time job. And then we were running a boot camp at the same time, which made no sense at all. But we ran this boot camp very successfully. We had 80% of the people that got trained with us got employed afterwards, which is fantastic.
That's a great success.
But then we wanted an easier way for people to be able to access that course material, interact with each other, which is where the LMS came from. And again, it's another WordPress site, but you can brand it the way you need to. You can make add-ons the way that you need to as well. And that's been an absolutely fantastic addition, because anyone that's learning with us now can access all of their learning material for as long as they need to after the course is completed as well, alongside the recordings, which is fantastic. And they can really track their progress. So it's been amazing to be able to build these products internally to enable the community to gain more from what we're doing, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Can you speak about your transition into working full-time and now moving into, okay, let's make Coding Black Females a full-time kind of gig?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think I ever set out at the very beginning that this would be a full-time thing. I thought it was going to be a meetup group, fine. Yeah. Although I also really wanted to run something
big. Exactly.
So I think I always kind of knew that this is what I wanted to do. It's fine. I pretend that I didn't, but I really wanted to. So so we started delivering the coding bootcamp in 2020. And that was a point where we were receiving income to deliver that, because you actually can't deliver things without money, because you have to pay people. But what I did was I didn't pay myself for a year. So I essentially left that money in the business, knowing that I could be working full time, so I've got an income there already. And then the only thing that I have to find is time at that point. And then the money that I was earning, or should have been taking for myself, I left in the business essentially as an investment to that business that year. So I would do that with quite a few things. We would deliver workshops, people would get paid, and I'd pay them out of my pocket, because I wanted them to know that they were valued. I wanted them to associate CBF as a genuine brand, because it was a real business. But we didn't have the money yet, so I would make sure people got paid, and I would pay them through my money instead. And then when it came to developing the rest of the business, again, that was making sure that we've got that initial investment in the business, which was me just not taking the money that I was due. I just worked loads of hours instead, rather than taking somebody else on. But then what then happened was, because I was working full time, and this is something that I actually learned when I was doing my Black History training. My tutor at the time was like, when you're wanting to set up a business, work every hour that you're given, and then you're never gonna, when you then are able to transition into doing that business full time, you're gonna give yourself time back, and that's actually gonna feel quite good to you. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just kill it for a year, like 1 year of working really hard, of working all the hours that I could for my day job, and then all the hours that I could for CBF.
Oh, wow.
Which maxed me out. Like, it wasn't healthy at all. Like, I wouldn't say it's a good thing to do, but it meant that I can do what I'm doing right now. So I'm not feeling that bad about it. So that meant that we had that initial investment in the business, and then it was trying to understand, okay, what does CBF actually mean? What are our ways of generating income? What are our ways that we could generate income in the future to mean that we can actually have a sustainable business that can run over many, many years? So there was the obvious one, understanding the job board. So we kind of understood how many people the income that we got from the job board equated to, which was quite a handy thing. So I knew that, okay, we could have somebody that could help maintain that, but also somebody that can help with the running of the business through the job board income. And then it was looking at the other streams of income and understanding the pillars, I guess, of CBF. So we always call our pillars like jobs, events, mentoring, and training. So for each element within those pillars, how can we make sure that we can create sustainability that can support the community, support organisations, so there's a reason to generate income, and then mean that can lead to more people being employed. So job board, great, that brought in a bit. Then I sort of realised that the partnerships that we get with companies, that's another fantastic way to know, okay, if I get this number of partnerships, I can employ this many people, and is it likely that that company would renew with us for an extra year, meaning that I can employ people for more than 1 year, essentially. So the journey has really been about understanding how you can generate income, how you can make a brand feel comfortable with people. And I don't know, I find that interesting, because when I was learning about branding and things like that, I used to watch a lot of documentaries about like how brands resonate with people and what makes people feel good and things like that. And I remember watching something about Heinz. They'd get people to try different baked beans, and some would see the label, some wouldn't, and there was something that would light up in their brain if they saw the label, which would make them feel good. And I was like, well, that means that if you're building a brand, your brand has got to be everywhere. So I was like, push the logo out in every location, we'd have events and I'd give everybody business cards to take to events that they went to, so that then the CBF logo could be more places and make people feel more comfortable with this brand that they felt associated with, right? Not just to build a brand, but because they would feel part of something that is important to them as individuals, right? So it was like, there was this element of like building this brand out, but then understanding how the strength of a brand can relate to an organization to enable us to generate more income and enable us to hire people, really. So when I stopped working in a full-time role and transitioned into CBF, at that point, it felt like a risk. It felt scary. But I was also like, you know, the worst case scenario is, the absolute worst case scenario is that I do it for a year because I know the income's there. So I do it for a year, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, and then I get a job as a developer. Like, I was like, okay, that's actually not that scary, and it's not really a risk. It's actually fine. So just made sure that we got the runway there, the money that we needed to last, and then I moved full time, and then we were able to start employing people. Every hire that we've had has been related to a project, so that we've always known that there's a way that we could sustain that person for at least a year and a half. So every person that's joined, I know that there's a year and a half that they could be supported by. And then obviously when you've got more people, you can do more work as well. So you can actually grow. And that's been, I don't know, it's been an amazing journey of learning about organizational growth, learning about what actually speaks well to companies, but also trying to make sure that people who are part of something can actually really feel involved in it, and really, I don't know, resonate with it, want to grow it, want to be part of this amazing thing. And I think that's the thing I love about even the people that work at CBF. Like, every single person is just passionate about Black women in tech. Like, they might not have been they're not in tech, all of them, but they're so passionate about seeing that change. Like, they're so passionate, and that for me makes it super exciting that we can actually pay somebody a salary to help them help the community that looks like them, which is amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic knowing that we're growing, knowing that we're still having impact, knowing that people are still benefiting. All worth it. So yeah, living my dream life right now.
It's so cool. So Charlene and Amber, it's now time for the tech tea. So we're going to ask you for your controversial take on something in the industry. What's something about that frustrates you about tech, or that you think isn't discussed enough?
Okay. It's actually going to lead back to something that we've just spoken about, which is time, right? So I would say, before I set up Coding Black Females, I didn't spend that much time on social media. Like, I'm not a social media person, but when I've been on social media, I see loads of people building side projects all the time, and just building things all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm an underachiever because I'm not building things all the time. And I would try, like, I would be in my day job and I'd go home and I'm like, okay, you've got to learn React tonight because everyone else is learning React all the time. And now they're learning Vue and I didn't learn React yet. Like, I just wanted to build things all the time. And I think that for me is what I would class as slightly controversial, this illusion that people have all this time to build and learn all these things on the side, which actually isn't all that true. So, and the time I found out that it wasn't true was when I was out with one of my mates, and he was like, we went to a WeWork because we run this other meetup called Meetup and Code, and we were running that to, oh God, that's going to sound really bad. He's going to be really angry if I've told people that he doesn't actually do work on the weekends. But anyway, I was with one of my
We
mates.
don't know who it is.
He opened up his laptop and he opened up like a browser, not a browser, an IDE, took a picture, closed it and had a beer. And I was like, mate, like, you're making everyone online think that you're working really hard right now. And you're just having a beer. And he's like, yeah, it's good, that's fine. And like,
I'm so triggered.
Oh, I shouldn't say this because it's really bad. Because, like,
yeah.
But no, like, and that's the thing. So when I found out that people do that, I was like, oh my God, I can breathe. Like, I don't need to learn all the languages at the weekend anymore.
Yeah.
Like, because people actually don't do it. Like, there might be some people that do, and that's fantastic if they're able to. But it's also okay not to try to learn everything and know everything and build everything and do all the things. It's okay to just do your day job, because that's actually really hard in itself, like to learn what you got to learn for your day job. And it's actually really hard to do anything on the side, because you might want to also eat and sleep and things like that.
Yeah. Actually live
really
your life.
Crucial things that people need. So yeah, I think that's my thing. It's this illusion that everyone's doing all these extra things that they are just not doing, and if they are, they're selling in a slightly different way.
Yeah. I think that was definitely something that I was looking into. Like when I first started my role, I was like, I'm not learning fast enough. And like, do I need to, and I was asking people, do I need to code in the weekends? Like, do I need to build these side projects? And it was quite confusing, like, because you get a mixed response. Like, yes, of course you do. The only way that you're going to be a superstar developer if you live and breathe coding. And then some people would be like, no, just relax. But I've noticed all the superstars would tell me to relax. But in reality, at the start of their career, they were dedicating a lot of time outside of their 9 to 5 to coding.
So that's one thing that I would say is, as much as I say relax, for the first year or 2 years of my career, I was working full time and then coming home and learning and building stuff outside of work. In fact, I did it for my whole career. So
So you're one of the ones
Cancel
that
her.
feel bad.
I'm one of those people that does it, but like that's what I would do.
See, this is exactly the thing that I was struggling with. People say, no, relax, live your life, but I'm going to code on the weekends and like develop my skills. I'm like, you don't have to, because you need balance.
But I think that's the thing. So balance is the important thing. So I think it's choosing the right time, is making sure that you are getting rest, not burning yourself out by building stuff, right? So whilst I was, I would take my laptop everywhere and like try to build stuff, or even when I wasn't building, like pretend to build stuff, like just have my laptop open in a coffee shop and like think I was trying to code, but I was actually just having a coffee. But like, I think the way that you do it is important. So one of my friends, like the friend that like would take a picture or whatever, like he also would do a lot of coding outside of work as well, and we would meet up at weekends and we would code together. So it would be like whilst it was like a time to do extra work, it was also a social, it was also a time for me to hang out. And I think that was a balance for me that was quite good, because it's like, yeah, okay, you're spending your whole Saturday doing work, but you're also hanging out with one of your best mates, like which is actually quite a nice thing to do. And you and your mate have something really big in common, which is building stuff. So that's good. So I think it's about finding the balance. Like, maybe don't sit at home and code every evening and then all weekend and not see anybody and feel really isolated and find that really tough. Maybe do that alongside other people that can be on that journey with you and have that excitement. So I think that's part of like the Coding Black Females journey that I had, which was like, I want to bring people together to do that. But then also with Meet Up and Code, the other thing that I do, like, it was, let's bring people together out of their bedrooms to meet up with other people and build relationships whilst they're also coding and whilst they're developing stuff. So I think it's important to find those environments, find those communities where you can actually do that with other people, and then it doesn't feel like you're just working and grafting all the time.
And I think it's not even just the comparing yourself to the people who are posting those things online. I think for me, the bit that I struggled with was comparing myself to myself, like with the 100 days of code thing. And she triggered Amber.
I'm so triggered. Carry on, just.
But you some days I was able to do loads, and I could post. I had screenshots of all the things that I've managed to do and change and build. And then other days I could barely do anything, so I was so tired, exhausted, like doing other things. But that having the guilt of like, oh, I did do it the other day, so I should be able to do it now. I don't know. It's like, another element of difficulty in that pressure that you put on yourself.
Yeah, and I think that because so many jobs now, or at least like from what I can see, a lot of jobs, they want to see the online presence. They want to see that you're blogging and building all this other stuff, and you're like, what? Like, I can barely. I've just finished learning all this stuff. You want me to learn more stuff so that I can get a job, so that I can show you that I'm learning in my spare time. Like, that's really tough. I think that is really hard, and especially what you've said about like comparing yourself to yourself. Like, when I was doing things on the side, it wasn't even a race against all the other people. It was against me, thinking that I wanted to be better, and I thought I was going to be this super like amazing all the hours like coder, like building stuff, like building all these apps, like. And I think that's the difficulty. It's almost like coming to terms with who you are and the fact that you have limitations because you're a person, like, and being okay with that, being comfortable with that, and then moving forward on the journey.
Yeah, and recognizing that your best changes every day, right? So,
Absolutely.
Something I'm still trying to learn. Something I'm still trying to, because it's like, I think in the kind of tech space, it's normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal to have a blog. It's normal to like build in public. So when I'm telling people outside of tech what I'm doing, like, oh my gosh, like this is, I'm like, girl, this is normal. Like, there's no need to gas me up.
But then that's the toxic hustle culture thing.
Yeah.
Like normalizing that, because it's not normal, right?
Yeah.
Like not in all situations and in all the ways that we see it all the time presented to us.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but what I do like about like building a public is that it's like you can fail publicly, and it's like, it's quite, actually, that's quite controversial because, you know, I always forget that tech bros exist. I'm so out of the tech bro, like, kind of, like, in my social media, like, presence, that I actually almost forget that they exist. And, like, I remember going to a Women in Tech event, and she was saying that she contributed to open source, but when she didn't display, like, her picture or the fact that she was a woman, she would get a lot less, like, critical, like, comments of her code. But like, yeah, but when she was like presented as a woman who's like contributing, she would get like really awful and sexist comments like in her code. Like if she like messed up, if something wasn't to someone else's standard, they'd make a huge deal about it, and I thought it was really weird.
It's sad, I think, that and it's interesting because, as you said, like, I feel so out of this like world now.
Yeah,
because I only know black women in tech.
Yeah, you built a black women in tech world.
So from what I see in tech, it's a really supportive,
yeah,
fantastic community.
Literally. Yeah. It's so interesting. Like depending on who you surround yourself by, your view of like who's in tech is different. Because even before I landed my role, I was like, why are we doing all this work for women in tech? I know plenty of women in tech, darlings. Like, I didn't really get why we were doing all this work. And even in my first role, I can't even tell you that I was the only woman in the male team. Like, I was working with so many women. Like, and like the big-brained women, the big-brained people were women. Yeah. And so it was like still weird, like, I'm not really having this issue. So when I'm getting asked questions like, oh, what's it like being a woman in tech? I'm kind of just thinking, I'm surrounded by a lot of women. Like, I don't feel like I'm the only, which was quite different. I was the only, you know, black, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, but it was quite interesting. Well, what has your experience been like in terms of like diversity and like who you surround yourself by in tech?
I think it's changed a lot, but like since I've been in tech, I've been at a company that the CEO is a black man and like cares a lot about it, and so I think that as well as being like a contributing factor to why the company appealed to me, it like filters through to like a lot of the ways we do a lot of the things. So I think when we have our new joiners next month, we were going to be like 50% women.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Really in engineering, which is super cool. Yeah. But how about you, Charlene? I'm sure it's changed.
It's interesting because I've only ever worked on teams that have had women. Like, I've never been the only woman on a team. I've been on teams which are all women, that like we were all women, and I was like, I think we need a man.
Where are the tech bros?
Yeah, like, so I've always had a lot of women around me when I've been in the tech industry. I think that's one of the things that's been actually really positive about my journey is like even on my first team, I was like, there were two women, me and a woman who was not me, obviously the other woman, and she was more senior than me, and she like almost like took me on the journey that I said I wanted to go on. So I had so many people around. I've always had loads of people around me that have supported my career and supported my journey. So when she moved on, she was like, Charlene must be the next team lead. You need to make Charlene the next team lead. And like, I just had the opportunity. And then really she would pull me in, like, she then moved on to another role, and she was like, you need to help Charlene become a technical architect. And I was like, cool, like, I'll do that too. So it's good having, because I've been on a journey where I've seen women supporting women, it's like, actually, that is normal. And I think that is normal for tech, that people do support each other, but I think the women in the tech space are actually really supportive of each other as well.
We need someone with a bad experience working with other women to balance out this conversation. Because
no, I think it's cool though.
No, it is good for people to hear that we've had positive experiences, but we're not necessarily acknowledging the fact that not everyone is privileged enough to have those kind of experiences. And I've definitely had conversations with people who have been the only woman, and not only the only woman, but the only Black person in their team. And like, I've even spoken to other women who feel like they kind of need to maybe like watch a few sports to engage with the guys, and they're seeing like the fact that someone new can be onboarded who's a man, and they can bond over things that she just can't bond with them.
So I would say that, like, so at the start of my career, I started drinking beer. I hate beer. Like, I used to. Now I like it 'cause I learned how to drink beer. But I remember going out with, like, my girls, and they'd all be having cocktails, and I'd be like, I've got to drink beer because I've got to practice this, because that's what guys do. And, like, when I started work, I started learning, like, the rules of football before I started so that I could talk about football, stuff like that. So, definitely. But I feel like I've forgotten all of that because they were maybe the things I didn't like so much, so I don't keep them at the front of my mind, if you know what I mean. But like, I think that that side does exist. That side is slightly unfortunate, I would say, and I think that my experience of that, whilst they've been negative slightly, they've not been that bad, because otherwise they would be at the forefront. They would be my reason. But I think that seeing the positives in, like, the one woman on a team of 20, seeing that positive actually has enabled me to say, let me create more than one woman that's going to be on a team of 20 that can then pull more women along. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes those bad things happen, but if we can find the positive or a positive that we can use to create more positives, then let's do that if we can. And I'm not saying that if you have a negative experience and you feel that and you're taken by that's a bad thing, because that's not a bad thing. That's the human experience. That's my personality, is that if I have bad things happen, my mind says, how can I make this into a positive? And sometimes that's healthy, sometimes it really isn't. Like, sometimes I have to let myself also feel, and I'm like, no, you need to experience this as a negative and process those emotions. But sometimes when I can, I'll say, let's see how I can turn this negative into a positive that can be a benefit not just for me, but for more than just me as well, because then we create more.
So, but Charlene, thank you so much for being on. I actually still have goosebumps. This has been so enlightening. But yeah, thank you for coming on. How can we get in contact with you and keep up with all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so my social medias are all Charlene P. Hunter. That's how you can find me. But I would say, if you want to find out anything, go to Coding Black Females instead, because that's more interesting than me. So codingblackfemales.com or Coding Black Females on most of socials, Coding Black Femmes on Twitter.
Yeah, that's it.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of the Glowing in Tech podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as we did making it. So next week, if we have a special guest on, and to find out who that is, be sure to follow us on socials at Glowing in Tech on Instagram and Twitter. And we'll see you next week.